In 1988, Toriyama Akira made a fateful decision. He skipped the story ahead 3 years. Now, it's not as if he hadn't done that before. By this point, Toriyama had probably already long forgotten the exact age he'd given his main character at the beginning of the series. But while Toriyama may not have been aware that Son Goku would turn 18 years of age, he very obviously knew the implications. Son Goku would be an adult. Now, in modern times, this is hardly considered a big deal. When most people think of Goku, they think of an adult. When video games have both young and old Goku as separate playable characters, the adult version is Goku, while the child version is Kid Goku. But at the time, this was a huge decision. In 1988, everyone knew Goku was a monkey-tailed kid. Just imagine if, for example, the creators of Tiny Toon Adventures or Fairly Odd Parents just up and decided one day that all their child stars were going to be adults. Not as a fantasy sequence, not as a one-off time travel adventure, but that from then on, they were just going to be adults in every episode. That's fairly unsettling to think about, especially in the latter case, where the entire premise depends on Timmy Turner being a child, because only children can have fairy godparents. This idea was quite enough to terrify Toriyama's editor, Torishima Kazuhiko. The thing I felt was the biggest crisis for serialization was when he told me that Goku would grow up. Toriyama-sensei threatened that if Goku didn't grow up, then he couldn't continue with serialization. It was terrible breaching the subject like that. You can have the protagonist grow up, just don't scare me like that, I said. But it was against the theory of manga. The impression each character leaves is the basis of their appeal. I was very nervous, so on the release day I went to the editing department before 8 o'clock and waited. Won't there be phone calls of complaint from the readers, I thought? So, would this drastic change spell doom for Dragon Ball? Would this be the mistake that would sink the series? Oh, it's a ridiculous anticlimax, as you already know the answer from the very next sentence, but there weren't any at all. It seems that the readers accepted it. Why did they accept it? Because of the familiar trappings of the Tenkaichi Budoukai offsetting the changes? Maybe they were already used to Dragon Ball reinventing itself. Maybe because adult Goku was just cool, as Toriyama's later editor, Takeda Fuyuta, suggested in the same interview. Or maybe it's just because even as an adult, Goku was still pretty much the same person. Why did Toriyama insist upon it? Had he run out of ideas of stories to tell with Goku as a child? Was this another attempt to make the series more popular? Had he already decided he was going to give Goku a child of his own, and in essence replace him with a similar pint-sized protagonist? Or did he insist simply because the math necessitated it? I guess we'll never know. All I do know is that this is the 23rd Budoukai arc, not the Goku becomes an adult arc, so let's get going! I really enjoy Chapter 166. I really enjoy reunion after time skip chapters in general. There's a warming sense of camaraderie and it's fun to see the characters' new looks. But I think this one might be my favorite of all. Maybe it is because Goku and Kuririn are adults, but there's a real sense of growth here. I can tell these people know each other, have a history, and really care about each other. This whole chapter is no fighting at all, no adventure. The threat only shows up at the very end. It's just friends catching up with each other. And I'm sure it's partly my nostalgia showing from being introduced to Dragon Ball at the beginning of the Z television series, but I love the appearances of the characters. Indulge my inner fanboy, but there is so much to talk about. First off, we see Kuririn's adult form for the first time. It's easy to overlook due to Goku's change being so much more dramatic, but this is a big deal too. It has come up in the past that Kuririn is shorter than Goku, but this is the first time it's established that Kuririn actually is a really short guy. Again, this is kind of a duh moment for fans, but remember, up until now he's just been presented as a kid of comparable height to Goku. I've always wondered why Toriyama decided to have him ultimately be that short. Granted, how short is going to vary considerably. Here he's up to Goku's chest. At other points he'll only be slightly taller than a 5-year-old. But then again, you can say the same about the other characters too. Yamcha has grown back his long hair from the beginning of the series, although he's wearing it in a ponytail here. Or perhaps a warrior wolf tail to let the other warriors know he's fun and perky. More importantly, Yamcha is now sporting his signature facial scars. I like these. They make his face much more distinctive. I mean, honestly, prior to this, he bore more than a passing resemblance to Sukutsun from Dr. Slump. What's odd, especially considering that we'll see another character receive a permanent scar in this arc, is that we never get even the slightest hint as to how Yamcha got them. What untold Yamcha story is out there? What perils did he face during his training? Although, knowing Yamcha is probably the result of something completely embarrassing like trying to shave with his sword, which is why he doesn't talk about it. I'd almost be inclined to guess that this was just a retcon to Yamcha's design, except that this very arc includes a newly drawn flashback panel that doesn't include the scars, so it can't be that. Tenshinhan and Chaozu have stopped wearing the crane kanji and instead wear the kanji for their own names. Other than that, yeah, they're unchanged. Get used to that. Nice hats, though. What's really nice, though, is the character interaction. Most interesting, though, is that while they're all friends at this point, we see various degrees of closeness between certain characters. Tenshinhan continues to respect the Jackie Chun secret when he clandestinely asks the Muten Roshi if he's going to continue competing. Goku seems to share a closer bond to Yamcha and Kuririn as we see them talk about uniforms, and Goku explains to them that Kami-sama removed his tail in order to restore the moon. And yet when Piccolo shows up, it's only Tenshinhan in whom Goku confides, asking him not to tell anyone else. So while he's friendlier with Kuririn and Yamcha, he seems to trust Tenshinhan more with mission-critical information. Even then, though, he only agrees with Tenshinhan's guess that he's a minion of Piccolo, not telling him he's Piccolo himself. I'm not gonna lie here, I think this first shot of the new Piccolo has him looking his absolute best, lean and menacing. In general, the turban and mantle are nice touches that make him look cooler than his predecessor. But I especially like the ends of the turban that hang down. Too bad they'll immediately disappear and never to be seen again. So cool. How about that tail of Goku's? Again, at this point, Goku is much more well known without a tail than with one, but yeesh, until now it's been one of Goku's most defining characteristics. It's honestly difficult to believe that it's done away with nothing more than a shrug. To this day I wonder why Toriyama did it, and if I ever got a chance to ask him one question, it would probably be this. I really can't believe he just wanted the moon to come back that badly, especially considering I could count the number of night scenes left in the series on one hand. A hand that's been through a wood chipper. Unless he already knew he was going to have Goku's son transform, there's really no reason for it. Maybe it's as simple as Toriyama not thinking adult Goku looked good with it. I mean, it's easy to forget that, say, Vegeta ever had a tail, considering he almost exclusively keeps it wrapped around his body. Notably, while Goku tells this story, he makes it obvious that he still has no idea what the connection between the moon and his tail is. But aside from the tail, Goku's outfit gets a minor overhaul with a new undershirt and boots, distinguishing it from his Kame school classmates. Must have been another thing Toriyama just thought looked good. I'm sure it's never going to come up in the story. As if this new Piccolo wasn't noteworthy enough, that encounter's followed by a young woman who greets Goku. But when he doesn't immediately recognize her, she yells at him and stomps off, leaving everyone confused. To skip ahead just a little bit, we're going to learn that she registered under the name Anonymous Hopeful, which is a little weird if you think about it. I mean, beyond the obvious. After this encounter, she absolutely refuses to disclose to Goku who she is. But in the encounter that just occurred, she obviously didn't expect him not to know her. And in previous and future tournaments, we see that fighters register their names before they begin competing, so she obviously had to have registered before this confrontation. So, how is she anonymous? Did she run back outside and demand they change her name? Can she even do that? Well, I guess she had to, as that's the only way this makes sense. Not long after that, another character returns. It's King Choppa, who once again has his first preliminary against Goku. He loses, and is never seen again. All hail the patron saint of bad luck! It should be noted that the old monk who always gives the prelim introductions states that the number of entrants has dropped sharply to a mere 72. It's never said outright, but I have to imagine that despite the best efforts of our heroes in the last arc, people figured out that competing in this tournament greatly increases one's risk of being killed by a green scaly demon. The only one of the main 5 fighters who doesn't get a scene of reconnection, friendship, plot of any kind, or even more than one line of dialogue is, you guessed it, Chaozu. The best he gets is a fourth wall breaking peace sign when he rigs the lottery. Otherwise, nobody cares. If only he realized how lucky he is just to be visible in a panel this arc. Even during the preliminaries, we'll see Kuririn, Yamcha, and Tenshinhan talking to each other, and Chaozu will just be out for a smoke break or something. Or maybe he's having some awesome match, breaking bones and warping the very fabric of reality with his psychic powers. Too bad it's not important enough to actually see. Not even his friends are interested in watching. Then again, maybe the first prelim of his we see is his very first one, which makes it all the odder that no one, not even Ten Shinhan, is anywhere near him when they hear his blood-curdling screams ring out. When his so-called friends finally wander over, they find him unconscious, at the hands of Tao Pai Pai. Dun dun dun! He had to use all of his assassin money to rebuild himself as a cyborg, and apparently all those metal parts don't disqualify him from the tournament. And now he's out to avenge himself against Goku and the Crane School traitors. So I hope you enjoyed seeing Chaozu, because that's about it. And remember last tournament when Yamcha broke his leg and Bluma, Lunch, and Puar abandoned the entire event just to stay in the hospital with him? Guess who Chaozu has for company when he's in the hospital? Come on, guess. Give up? The answer is nobody! In fact, aside from a few moments near the beginning of the finals, nobody seems to care or even remember he exists. I bet he's just lying in a hospital bed wondering why he even came back to life, that his soul restlessly drifting across the earth was better than this crap. During a quick but cool-looking montage, we learn that Goku, Ten Shinhan, Kuririn, Yamcha, the new Piccolo, Tao Pai Pai, and Anonymous have all made it into the finals. There's only one spot left, and this final preliminary will determine whether Yajiro, this cunningly concealed masked man, or this unassuming middle-aged man named Shen will get it. Shen starts off with some ridiculous calisthenics and then accidentally knocks out masked guy, and so the smaller, unassuming fighter proves himself superior. It's the Toriyama way.